Do you know what dreams are? Dreams enter in and then tell you stories, and I'm able now to write them. After treatment that I got last year, I am now writing my second book and hopefully publishing my first book. With this vlog, I will tell you all about it on a weekly basis or semi-weekly basis. Stay tuned. Welcome everyone back to my vlog. So this is vlog 31, and I decided that this time I'm going to take you through what I do when crafting a scene. So this is kind of a little bit of a how I do it. And then I'm happy to announce and talk a little bit about book 3 and why it's really interesting. And then finally, updates on book 1. Stay with me. Lots coming. Welcome to the vlog. So I've been interesting week this week. I wrote one whole scene and I've been working on trying to figure out the next scene. And as I'm doing my preparation for my mind, my alignment, what the scene's going to have into it, it actually has gone through many iterations. And this made me think that I'm planning out my scenes before I write them in such a way that it makes the writing of them easier. So what I wanted to do was to share some of those insights on how to produce a scene with you. So here we go, the art of a scene. You ever wonder why some scenes feel alive and the others fall flat? That's what we'll talk about here. When we're done, hopefully you'll have an idea on how scenes can be very valuable. So for my entirety of my book, I have an outline of my scenes. Sometimes I add to it, I take away from it, maybe I reorder it, but I have an idea of my scenes. It's kind of like how I want to get from point A to point B. But sometimes there might be a deviation, sometimes there might be a choice, and sometimes I might make the choice that I don't want to go to point B, instead I go to point D. In any case, I have a plan, and trying to structure my scene, I like to do a little bit of an outline with it. Um, I define the goal of the scene. What do I want to do? What it has to be achieved by the end of the scene. I look at opportunities for conflict and tension to give it an interesting flavor, to give that scene something to be remembered, something for the readers to actually want to keep reading. But I also have to note there's a beat to the scene, a setup, escalation, resolution, major moments in the scene that have to be highlighted, keyed, given some kind of underline or neon lights, if, depending on what I want. Of course, I have an outline, I have a goal, I have things I want to achieve, but I also have behaviors for the characters. And I don't really know how the characters are going to interact with the scene until I get to writing it. However, that's also important to realize that the characters need to interact with the scene. So when I start the writing of the scene, I know in the scene, okay, the rock is going to fall on the cliff and the characters are going to jump out of the way. But what are the characters really going to do? That I don't know until I write. And then I discover as I write. And sometimes I don't like it, and I go back and I erase it and I rewrite it. And sometimes, where did that come from? I need to make the characters three-dimensional, so I have to know what their fears are, what their desires are. I have to make them make clear choices, and I have to make them suffer those choices. Um, I also have to make the characters challenge, sometimes using contradictions, making the calm one snap or making the brave character hesitate. Those are just examples. I have to describe the body language, the dialogue of the characters, the ideas of the characters. Sometimes I dig into their thoughts. Sometimes I don't need to. Sometimes I make the characters observe what another character is doing. All these drive the scene and make it more interesting. But just like all the scenes interact with each other to make the sections and the sections into the book, there has to be a pace. There has to be opportunity for the audience to get excited, calm down, take a breath. Oh, think about it, and then move on. So pacing and controlling of tension and emotional impact is something that I can't plan for, but I validate after I do it. Short sentences allow me to write for urgency and longer for reflection, and that's causing a pacing. Dialogue sometimes needs to be broken up with actions, and a paragraph breaks to breathe or to tighten to make the reader go, huh? That's all value. And then when I'm writing, I write with my poetry, I write with my voice, I write with beauty. Um, Not purple prose, but clarity with resonance. I want my readers to actually see it, so I have to define the stories for them to see, um, using specifics, using the senses, sight, touch, hearing, smell, and the tech and how you describe that is the color, the texture, what does it feel like, what do you hear, what's the heartbeat, what's it resonating in the character's body. Sometimes metaphors fit with the character's point of view, but the metaphors I have to be careful about. The metaphors have to align with the character. Since I'm using aliens, metaphors is more difficult because I can use an alien metaphor that the audience won't understand. And my human characters are not from our timeline, so their human metaphors also don't exactly line up. But there still has to be some kind of alignment. So I try to avoid cliches, use my fresh language, and just speak my piece. Allow the readers to listen to what they hear from me. So my formula is outline, behavior, pacing, and beauty. And you can try this out yourself. Whether it's a short story, whether it's just a scene in that story, just attempt to try to do this. Start out small. Just apply to do one thing at a time. Work on the behaviors of your characters if something happens. Work on the pacing of the alignments in the sentences in order for it to be to have a resonance in the reader. And also write with beauty, ending with something that makes the readers remember it, something that stares them straight in the eyes, kind of like Sammy here is doing. Share your favorite scenes, building tips and techniques in the comments. Let's all learn together. Phew. Sometimes lectures even put me out of breath, but let's take a second for that. That last section was really fun, though. Building up a scene and then adding the scene into your story, then aligning the rough draft of the story. So I always write my books. I'm writing my second book. I have written my books by first defining an outline for the scenes, writing the scenes, and then go back and then convert my scenes into chapters. That will be another class on doing. So I start with the scenes as I build, and then in the second read, I go through and it's like, okay, how do I enhance that? How do I turn this into a proper chapter? How do I keep my point of view? How do I keep the audience understanding who is talking to them? You know, these are all fun things I'm doing in the writing, and it's just amazing all the steps that are taken to do it. And I have to thank Copilot for telling me these wonderful secrets. And now I'm joined a bunch of different Facebook groups with different authors, and I'm reading through their comments as well, and everything still lines up. It's it's cute, nice. I like it. Um, a big revelation that happened to me this week. Book 3. In book 3, I've had my characters defined, I've had the world defined, I've had some technologies defined, but I wanted it to be different. And I got the inspiration on what can make it different and yet still interesting to the audience. Because book 1 has its thing, the revolt on Prime. Book 2 detonate. It has its thing, and that is also a different feel than what book one is. So book three has to be unique and have a feel that the audience will connect to. And so, well, let's just say I've been watching the background documentary on Netflix of WWE, the current version, how they went through the 2025 year. That's given me a lot of inspiration, and we'll see some of that in book three. But you have to wait. Now for updates. So right now it's in the middle of November. Chris has reported the cover is ready, and I got him coming over next week. And then I'm going to do an interview with him with that cover and the painting. You all get to see it as we hang it on the wall. We'll do a nice big picture on parts of it, so Chris can talk a little bit more about here he wanted to do this, here we wanted to do that, highlights on the details. It'll be very interesting. So I look forward to making that for you for next week. Joanne's still busy with the editing. And then book two, I just finished book scene 22 this week. Scene 23, I have reworked about 4 times, but I finally have what I want in my outlines to do in scene 23, which inspired me to make the vlog today about scene building. Um, so the inspirations of book three I just spoke about. That's given me some excitement to carry on and moving forward. Though I have 2 or 3 rewrites in book two to do before I get to that point, it's still all the books of the Wardens of the Dawn, um, the standalone book of Everett James on book four, and then the Curse of the untitled 3 books that follow. Those are all still floating in the ether, moving and merging like a bunch of Play-Doh in my head. I also got some ideas on how to make the books or the stories in book four work better. And then also an important thing is I need to connect the dots to the characters on both the sides throughout all these books. And their evolution as we go deeper into the books. They get older, they get wiser, and things change. So it's always important. It's kind of like writing a comic book where you have a couple of storylines happening in the back end that aren't shown until later releases. So it's a fun thing to do, and I'm having a great time doing it. And I hope watching these vlogs you are too. And when I finally get a book to you, um, I hope you find this journey has been worthwhile for the book. Thank you for watching the vlog. Please like and subscribe, and let's share it. I'd love to get to 50 subscribers on the YouTube channel. I am seeing a lot of views happening. My Facebook has had over 468 connector links and connections since I've put these videos up, so it's always fun to watch. Share it with your friends, and then I'll see you next week for the next vlog. Bill out.